everybody, this is Josh Robinson from Seymour Stories, and today we're here with Brandon Harp, the Superintendent of Seymour Community Schools.
Thanks for having us, Josh. One of our goals this year for Seymour Community Schools is to market and brand our school district, and I think this fits right in with that overall mission. So thanks for being with us today.
Well, great. Can you start out by just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got here to Seymour School District?
Sure. In 1999, I came to Seymour as a science teacher at the high school and a coach. I was an assistant coach in football, basketball, and track at that time. And I did that for a few years, and Mr. Prangy, the principal at the high school, asked me to consider being the dean of students at the high school. And I took on that role, and from there, my administrative career just really took off. I spent time as an assistant principal at the high school, as the vice principal at the high school. I moved over for 6 years as the athletic director at the high school, which the athletic director position at Seymour High School is a big one with our facilities, and we now have the largest high school gym in the nation. We host all kinds of IHSA tournament events and other events. So it's a very active and visible job. From being the athletic director, going on 4 years ago, I was named assistant superintendent. So I moved out here to central office. And then Mr. Hooker, our superintendent, retired last December. And in January, I was named interim superintendent. In May, the school board removed the tag and gave me a 3-year contract. And now I'm proud to say that I'm the full-time superintendent of Seymour Schools. So it's been a different path for Seymour Schools. Typically, they have brought superintendents from the outside who've had a lot of experience. I believe they were attracted to a couple things about me. I've seen it from all those different angles that I mentioned. I'm also a parent in the district. I have 3 children in 3 different schools in our district, and that has really brought me some perspective that has been valuable in this position. So it's been a whirlwind so far, but I think we're already making progress, and I like the direction we're headed. My wife, Natalie, she works for the hospital, and specifically she works in the foundation at Schneck Medical Center, and she's been doing that for I think 4 or 5 years. She's the events coordinator, so things that go on in the community sponsored by the hospital, such as the health fair. She's very active in they do free sports physicals for not only Seymour High School, but some of the other schools in the county. So she really leads up those events and is very good at her job. I'm proud of what she does. I have 3 children, as I mentioned earlier. One of them is a 4th grader at Emerson Elementary. Another one is a seventh grader at Seymour Middle School, and then I have a sophomore at Seymour High School. All 3 good students, all 3 very active in athletics and clubs and things like that. And again, like I said earlier, I just my kids have given me a perspective on what's happening in our corporation, but also allowed me the opportunity to make a lot of community connections and those sort of things. So it's been good.
Okay. So do you want to talk a little bit about kind of like the current status of the Seymour school system and kind of your outlook on that?
Yeah. So one of the things that we focused on going into this year, and I actually started this in February as the interim superintendent, is I really wanted to move forward with the end in mind, if that makes sense. So as we start this school year, I had this meeting with our administrators yesterday. I want them to envision where we're going to end up, and then let's work and move forward with the end in mind. So what I started in February was a new strategic plan for the corporation, and those meetings started. We met with just the school board, we being Lisa Ferguson, our assistant superintendent, Steve Nallman, our business manager, myself, and then our school board. And we started to work on developing the vision of our school system. The vision statement our board came up with is soaring to excellence, everyone, every day. Very, very simple statement, but it says a lot if you start to break that down. And us being the Seymour Owls, the the soaring, seemed to really fit in there. So from there, we started to meet with teachers and other administrators and parents, and we started to come up with what we consider to be our core values. And after we developed our core values, we came up with our mission, and then finally, our school board identified 3 goals that they really wanted us to focus on starting this year for the next 3 to 5 years as part of our strategic plan. And those goals being, number 1 is to continue to develop a plan for marketing and branding our school corporation. We are very proud of a lot of great things that we have going on in our school district, and we want to be able to tell our story. It's one of those things where if you're not telling your story, then someone else may be, and it may not be accurate, or it may not be the angle that you want it told. So we're really working on that. And then goal number 2 is to show measurable growth and academic achievement. And obviously, every school wants that goal. We've targeted some very specific pieces of our data that we want to see growth in. And then goal number 3 would be facility planning and improvement. I'm happy to say that Seymour schools continue to grow, as does the population of the city of Seymour, and with that comes some growing pains. As our student enrollment continues to grow, we have needs for more teachers and more staff, and we don't necessarily have adequate spaces to put them. And then over the years, what a learning space looks like that has obviously changed. I know when I went to school in the 80s and 90s. The model pretty much everywhere was you come in, you sit down, the teacher knows something that you don't, and you listen, and it's delivered to the students that way. There's a little bit of that today, but that's not the majority of what education looks like. There are small group instruction all around the room, hands-on activities, visual cues, things like that. So the needs of learning spaces are much different today than they were, and that plays into that goal as well. We're trying to address those needs. And then also along with that, not only have we had growth in our student enrollment, but what I would call our subpopulations, we've continued to see growth. Special needs kids and all those needs are different, so we need the learning spaces and the resources to meet those needs. And then also our English learner group, we have, I believe the number is 23. Mr. Prangy, the high school principal, told me. I believe we have 23 different languages in our high school.
Oh, wow.
That are spoken. There's a lot of Spanish. There's students who've come in from Guatemala who speak a dialect called Chu. And we have quite a few Japanese students and others. So we're really proud of that diversity. But it comes with needs that we're trying to address.
Well, there's a lot of information in there, and I want to ask about a couple things. But I guess the first thing that maybe I don't know myself, and maybe some other people out there watching don't know. I know you work along with the school board and other people, here in the administration. But what is your position as superintendent? What's your job duty? What do you actually do?
I'm in charge of bringing it all together, I think is the best way to say it. So I work closely with adults mainly, and I want to change that just a little bit in the coming years. But I work with the Teachers Association to try to help them make sure that they have the resources they need. I work with law enforcement, emergency management, and those agencies to make sure that we have the safest, most secure schools that we could possibly have. I do a lot more. I didn't really see this coming, but I do a lot of legal work, believe it or not. We have attorneys on retainer because we have to answer to the law first, but the Indiana law manual is about that thick, and a lot of those interpretations I make myself, by reading through there. And there's more of that comes up than you would think. There's more than I realized. So I do a lot of that. I have meetings with our administrators, our principals, assistant principals, the directors of all of our departments like transportation, facilities, special ed, English learners, food services. We have 16 different departments, and so I coordinate all of that as well. I mentioned I work mostly with adults. starting this year, I want to start having a student advisory group, and some of the ideas that I have, working with that group is, number one, I always want to know what they think in terms of our safety and security. Okay. We have an idea what we think it is, but they are living it. So I'm very interested to see what they bring forward with that, and I hope it's a positive and those sort of things. But I also, just like the strategic plan that I spoke about earlier, I think they need to be aware of that, and I want their input on that. I just really, that's one of the things I miss about being a teacher and a coach is I miss those interactions and those relationships you build with kids. So I want to continue to do that from this office.
Another thing from the beginning part that you kind of mentioned was technology in the schools. How is the Seymour Community School System adapting or planning to adapt to the great influx of technology in the learning environment?
Yeah, we are doing well. We are on our 4th or 5th year. We are a one-to-one school district, which means every student in our district has a device, and we've chosen to go with Chromebooks. We are a Google school, and so all of our kids have that. And it's been an adjustment for our staff too. We tried to provide a lot of professional development so that our staff best knows how to utilize those tools, those powerful tools in class. I said earlier that I was a science teacher when I started out, and I can remember trying to teach from pictures, things like plate tectonics, for example. Well, now you're with one-to-one technology, you're not just teaching from a two-dimensional picture, but you're seeing real live movement, online. You're interacting with classes from around the world. You're seeing those pictures become illustrations that come to life, and so I think when used correctly, I think they're very powerful tools that our students appreciate. So that one-to-one aspect has been a big part of our technology growth. All of our classrooms have overhead projectors. We have all that stuff everywhere, and technology is always changing. So we're going to try to stay on the cutting edge and keep up or stay ahead of the times as far as technology in the classroom goes.
Okay. And as a parent myself as well, and I'm sure you are, concerned about the safety in the schools as well, because there's so much we can't control. But what kinds of things has Seymour Schools done to ensure that the children here are safe in the schools?
Well, these days when we talk about safety, the first thing that seems to come to mind is the active shooter scenarios and those sort of things. And we've done quite a bit as far as that goes. When I was the assistant superintendent, that was one of my major roles, was being the director of safety in our corporation. And we've done a lot of things. We've done threat assessments at our schools. We've put the film on where glass won't break. Like if a bullet goes through it, it'll put a hole in it, but it won't shatter the glass. It could take 3 to 5 minutes for somebody to get through that glass. We've put secure entries, passive and physical security entries on all of our buildings, so you no longer walk in and have access to the hallways, but you walk in, you're greeted by someone, and then you're directed to where you want to go. So we've done all that kind of stuff. But what we find is the best combatant to those sort of security issues are just developing relationships with kids. So we had a fairly major threat 2 years ago, and it was uncovered because our assistant principals at the high school and our SRO at the high school, they have relationships with kids, and other kids overheard it, trusted them enough to come have that conversation, and we were able to thwart that threat, so to say. So we've done a lot with that, but we also don't want to lose sight of the other threats that are maybe more likely to happen. We know in Seymour, Indiana, we know that we will have 3 to 5 tornado warnings this year. So we're always looking at that. We're looking at smaller things like like trip hazards. We're looking at things like we don't want at our elementary schools. We don't want little kids to be able to wander off. So we want to make sure that we have great angles for supervision on recess and those sort of things. Of course, fire safety is always one you think about. And it's my understanding it's been almost 60 years, I believe, since a student in the United States has died at a school from a fire. So all of the fire codes and all that have all been a good thing, but even though that's still, that statistic is out there, you still want to take those things seriously. So we were audited last year by the DOE, as was every public school, and some of the things that we've done in our school system, we were told were considered best practice through the state. So we're very happy with where we are with safety and security, and I say that, but we are not comfortable. We always want to grow that area, because our kids and our staff are not going to be as good as they could be unless they feel safe and secure first.
No, I know you've mentioned some of the academic stuff so far, but I mean, as a parent myself too, I want my children to, be in a school that I consider, academically superior. So how's kind of the plan to maintain that and grow the academics in the Seymour schools?
Yep. Good question. So 2 years ago, we changed our math curriculum to what a lot of parents, when they call or I talk to them, I hear this term, new math. So we changed to what they call new math 2 years ago. It's not really new math. What it is, there are multiple ways to solve a math problem. And when I went to school, and probably when you went to school, there was only one way, and that's the way the teacher taught us. So new math embraces that kids have different strategies to solve the same problem. And we were told when we switched, likely you'll see a dip in your math scores the first year as kids make an adjustment, and then you'll see a big jump year 2. Well, that wasn't exactly what we saw. Of our 5 elementary schools, 3 of them had jumps right off the bat. One of them, a significant jump. Jackson Elementary, which is right next door to us, went up 11 points on the I-STEP the first year. One of them stayed the same, and one showed less than 1% dip. So we were really happy with what the progress we saw the first year in math. We don't have our scores yet from last year, but we're hopeful that we continue to see that trend. I would say at the secondary level, the goal is on CTE, Career and Technical Education. We went through a phase in education everywhere where you weren't really considered successful at like the high school level unless all your kids were on a college track. And that's really, we've gone back the other way on that now. We do have a significant number of kids who are college-bound kids, but we also have a group of kids who are career ready when they leave high school and enter the job market. So we have a beautiful new facility about half a mile from here that our Ag Science Research Center, that we've had people from all over the state come and tour this. Agriculture is very big in Jackson County. We have an Ag Advisory Board, which helps us with that, which is made up of local farmers and people from the Ag Science community. So we have a lot going on there. We've added welding there. We had welding many years ago, and it was taken away. It's come back, and so we're going to continue to expand those opportunities. We work with Columbus in the C4 program to send kids for different trades up there. We also, just this past year, we're very proud of this, Governor Holcomb came down and signed a bill at our high school in what we call OWL Manufacturing. So we have a lab in our high school that we call OWL Manufacturing, and it is a manufacturing business. They do metal work, wood, vinyl, 3D printing, T-shirts, all kinds of different things they can do, and it's been very well supported by our local industry. For example, Eisen, one of the largest employers in our county, had a contract with OWL Manufacturing to build them, I believe it was 500 of these. They're like workbenches, but they were very specific to some project they had going on, to where there were places to hang very specific tools, to put instructions, to build the piece. And so that's been ongoing. They've made gears for another industry around town. It's been such a good thing. The projection was last year we would have 28 students in our manufacturing, and we were at 52 last year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we have two full-time staff members in there, and we're to the point we could add another staff member, and if we had the room, and we will have the room at some point, we could double that again. So there's just a lot of buzz about that, about Al Manufacturing. And Governor Holcomb came down and signed his workforce development bill in our Al Manufacturing lab. We had the president of Al Manufacturing, a senior student, speak during the press briefing, and it was just very impressive. So that's a long way of saying that we're very focused on math at the elementary level right now without losing ground anywhere else, and we're very focused on the CTE element at the secondary level. So.
I saw the things when the governor was down here, and it's just really nice to see the community adapting to, or the schools adapting to the community. We're, big manufacturing base here, and giving all of those kids some real world experience before going out, understanding that not everybody's going to college, and really giving them a pathway to succeed. I love that. So,
and we had some individual successes among our students. We had, I know one student off the top of my head who was just kind of meddling and average, maybe even below average in his classes, and he got into Al Manufacturing, and he just found his calling, so to say, and he just really took off. His grades got better. He became more productive. He didn't miss school anymore, and we have more stories than that. But that's just one student off the top of my head where we made that connection, and it went well. So.
One of the other things that we see in the media a lot now, regarding the schools and the corporations and the states overall is, the subject of teacher pay. How is, Seymour, what are they able to do? How are you handling that?
Yeah, right now, our salary schedule for teachers is among the most competitive in the area. That being said, I still think teachers everywhere are underpaid. I mean, for the service they provide. We go through a process called collective bargaining, where the administrative team, we work with the Teachers Association, and we really have the same goal. We want teachers to get all the money they can. They deserve it. They're hardworking. However, you have to balance that want with the other expenses that you have in a school corporation, and to do what's fiscally responsible. So we go through that process, and there aren't any secrets. They know how much money is in each account, and we work together, and we try to figure that out. Our current salary schedule is very competitive. We're one of the higher ones in this region. But that being said, we would like to see that go up. Health insurance costs everywhere continue to go up, so that's always an issue. But I will say our Teachers Association and our administrative team here have a great relationship, and it's my understanding it's not like that everywhere, but we work together. We're all on the same page. So we start that process soon, and then September 15th is count day in Indiana. So that day they will look at our enrollment, and whatever that number is, X number of dollars follow each student back to this corporation and every other corporation. So that's called new money, and we work from that to develop those teacher salaries. Now, education finance, if we build a new building, that doesn't affect teacher salaries. Those are two different pools of money, and a lot of people misunderstand that. We buy a new school bus, that doesn't affect teacher salaries. You have an education fund, which are classroom related expenses, and those plug into the overall pool of money, which affect teacher salaries. Then you have an operations fund, which they don't commingle. They're not related. So a lot of the things that we need to do and want to do physically in our corporation, we will get done, and it won't have any bearing on what we can or cannot offer teachers in terms of salary.
So we're getting ready to head back to school. By the time this airs, it'll be, probably a few days before school starts. What kind of tips do you have for, parents and students that are heading back to school this fall?
It's an exciting time. We can't wait to welcome the kids back. Safety is always the number one concern, and I ask parents to keep that in mind as they drop their kids off to school, as they wait for the buses and those sort of things. When our schools were designed, you had three groups. You had the bus riders, you had the car riders, and you had the walkers. And in today's time, we have very few walkers, which means in a growing district like ours, we have more bus ridership than we've ever had. We have more car riders than we've ever had. So it does a couple things. Be patient with the bus times. We give them an estimate on when we think the bus will be there, but you really don't know until it works itself out. Some stops take longer than others and so forth. So help us out with that. Be patient. Also with car riders, when you're picking up, dropping off students at our schools, again, we have more cars than ever on our grounds at that time. So be patient, be careful, watch for kids who may dart out of nowhere. We think we've done a good job at our schools with separating walkers and cars and so forth, but you just never know, especially the first few days of school as people are building that routine. And then along with that, there's been a lot of attention lately on school bus stop arm violations. So please be aware that the buses are out and pay attention to those stop arms. The whole idea of that is to stop traffic both ways so children can cross the road. And we've given our bus drivers additional training on how to deal with some of those issues, but we don't want to have to rely on that. We had over 400 stop arm violations in Seymour alone last year, and that's just too many. Some of it's distracted driving. We all need to practice better habits with distracted driving, but especially during those morning and evening times when the buses are out. We ask for your help there. Another tip I would say is we have orientation and registration going on now. Returning students should have received a letter in the mail with what's called a SNAP code. You can get on our website. Click the purple button that says returning student registration, and most of the fields that you filled out last year are still in there. Very easy process. I've done it for all three of my children, but we ask that you go ahead and do that. Helps with planning and just helps with the routine as we start school. New students, there's a new student registration button. You can follow the prompts on there. Pay attention to school, your individual schools, their social media feeds, and they'll tell you when their orientations and back to school nights are and that sort of stuff. And then the last thing I'll say is I just encourage parents to get involved. I mean, we have parent-teacher organizations at all of our buildings. An easy way to get involved is attend high school athletic events, attend high school musicals and band performances and those sort of things. We have a lot of great, cheap entertainment right here in our school corporation, and it's an easy way for people to get involved.
Awesome. Now, what is the best way for parents to kind of follow the administration and superintendent and overall the community school system?
I would say start with your individual school. They all have Twitter accounts. We're a big Twitter corporation. All of our teams have a Twitter. All of our schools. It's just a great place to get news and not necessarily have to filter through some of the negative things you hear about social media. So follow your individual schools. All of them or most of them have a Facebook account, so you can check for announcements on there. When we have school delays or emergencies, that information will be put out on those sites. Also, it will be put out on local radio stations and a couple Indianapolis TV stations and Louisville TV stations. So just a lot of ways that we get information out. Our schools all still have the old traditional newsletters. You can watch for those coming home in your students' folders. But we're always looking for new ways to communicate with our parents. And right now, that social media aspect seems to be the best way.
Okay, great. Well, I want to thank you for taking time to answer some of the questions and help us get to know you better. Congratulations on your newer kind of role. And excited to see, where the where the school corporation goes, along with this strategic plan and everything that you're working on.
And Josh, we appreciate it, and I have for you a Seymour Owls pin
awesome.
I'd like to give you, and
Thank you.
And thanks for keeping us in mind with your program.
All right.
So,
Well, stay tuned, and we'll have another Seymour Stories episode soon.